So without further ado, I want to introduce our opening speaker. Virginia Jamison is the Deputy Secretary for Climate and Working Lands at the California Department of Food and Ag. And we're really pleased that she's here to open our summit and share some thoughts from the part of our state government that tries to support all of you here in this audience. So thank you, Virginia.
Thank you, Josette, and good morning to everybody, and thank you very much to the Almond Board for having me here. It's such a joy for me to see so many people gathered here to talk about soil health, which at the Department of Food and Agriculture we see as just such an important topic. For the last decade, approximately, CDFA has been focused on this topic. The focus came out of work done by our Environmental Farming Act Science Advisory Panel. It's a mouthful. But the panel was focused on climate change and the critical connection between the world's soils and climate, not only for mitigating it by increasing carbon storage in soil, but also for adaptation and resiliency. So as the climate gets warmer, the amount of arable lands around the entire globe is going to shrink. And that's one reason I think it's imperative that we protect and build on California's soils. California, you all know all of this, but California is one of 3 Mediterranean climates in the world, which has enabled us to grow bountiful crops all year long. And we are blessed with rich, excellent soils, which were formed over millions of years by erosion coming down from our mountains, depositing the rich sediment that this valley enjoys. This combination of factors is extremely rare and precious and calls for our stewardship. One of the first soil health related actions taken by CDFA was to stand up the Healthy Soils Initiative, which is a collaboration of state agencies and departments led by CDFA that promotes the development of healthy soils throughout the state. And the group has been coming together for years to discuss actions that can be taken by the state on its own properties and to encourage healthy soils practices on private lands. Coming out of that, the Healthy Soils Program was created by the legislature starting in 2014 with just $5 million. And if anybody here was in the room at CDFA when this program was being developed for the first time, you might remember that the room was completely packed, shoulder to shoulder, standing room only. I've never seen that room like that before or after. And so clearly there was strong interest, and clearly there's still strong interest all over the state, as evidenced by how many of you there are today. The state and all the participants there that day knew that there were so many reasons to care about this topic. Prioritizing soil health can lead to agricultural and environmental benefits, such as improved plant health, crop yield, improved water quality, retention, and infiltration. Improved biological diversity and wildlife habitat, and the reduction of erosion and dust, and so many more things. Additionally, soils play a critical role in carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas emissions reduction strategies. You may know that soils contain 75% of the carbon pool on land, and that's 3 times the amount stored in living plants and animals. And you may know that through the implementation of what we call healthy soils practices, or sometimes climate smart agriculture practices, farmers can improve the health of their soils and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So our incentive programs through the Healthy Soils Program allow farmers and ranchers to adopt these practices while minimizing financial risks to their operations. And we also fund the implementation of practices on demonstration ranches so that we can showcase, how these things work out in the field and really get people out there to see the benefits. To date, CDFA has awarded 1,600 incentive and demonstration grant projects. That totals more than $106 million and represents 130,000 acres worth of projects. And over the three-year lifespan of the projects funded to date, the estimated greenhouse gas reduction benefits are about 1.1 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent. So really huge. The program currently offers 27 different conservation management practices that you can choose from. Out of those 27 practices, we would say that compost application, cover cropping, and hedgerows are the most popular. People always want to know what's going to happen with the funding. And so the Healthy Soils program is currently receiving funding through legislative support on a year-to-year basis. We know that there continues to be strong interest in the program, which has been oversubscribed by 20 to 30% every single year. This year, we have an allocation of $70 million, and we're in the midst of one of our solicitations. These are block grants to organizations that can then go out and work with farmers and ranchers to implement practices on their lands. And then in the fall, we will do direct-to-farmer Healthy Soils incentive grants, and also our Healthy Soils demonstration grants. I wanted to mention that the Natural Resource Conservation Service is also getting a boatload of money through the Inflation Reduction Act, and they're planning on putting that money out and have asked CDFA to help spread the word about all the money that they have and to send farmers their way. I know their programs are always oversubscribed too, but it's more and it helps. And it's good that we have these avenues for getting folks to try out practices. We provide some funds, and you can take less of a risk when you try something new. But we know that even with all of this money, it's not enough. In 2022, one of CDFA's sister agencies, the California Air Resources Board, took a first step at modeling what they call natural and working lands and what contributions they could have to getting us to carbon neutrality. And one aspect of that was healthy soils practices, including cover cropping and compost application. And so at the end of this plan, they determined that to get us in this sector to carbon neutrality, we needed to be doing 78,000 acres per year, every year of new acreage to get us to carbon neutrality. So just for context, CDFA had $65 million to spend last year, and we were able to fund 88,000 acres of practices. So we know that getting to that target of 78,000 acres every single year would require very high appropriations. And so although we haven't seen the budget for this year, we know that it's going to be much less. And we know it's not, looking anywhere near as good as that. So we really have to find other ways of getting people involved. And we need to spread the word about the benefits of these practices, which you are doing here today. And I'm very grateful for that. There are some other challenges. We need to develop cost-effective measurement, monitoring, and verification methodologies for soils so we can begin to quantify and incorporate practice outcomes into the value chain. And we need to demonstrate that these practices work and invite folks out to our farms to see what's being done and to show it off. We know the strength of peer-to-peer learning. CDFA also has a few more initiatives underway I'll just mention briefly. We have a below-ground biodiversity ad hoc committee stood up by our Environmental Farming Act Science Advisory Panel. That's a body made up of world-class soil scientists, and they will be releasing a report later this summer that they've been working on all year about the importance of soil biodiversity and the benefits to soil health. We've also been working with the nonprofit Sustainable Conservation, along with UC A&R and UC Davis and others, to decipher the true impact of cover cropping on water budgets, particularly as we're all dealing with SGMA implementation. And currently, Sustainable Conservation is organizing a white paper with the findings. And although that paper is not written yet, I think we can safely say cover cropping is a good idea. And then lastly, our Manure Recycling and Innovative Products Task Force is also putting together a report addressing manure composting, subsurface fertigation, and more. So CDFA is going to continue to focus on soil health. We are really grateful for your partnership and really grateful for you all taking the time to meet today on this topic. And I hope everybody has a great day and learns a lot. And I plan to. And thank you for being here, and thank you for having me.